Hello fight fans, welcome back to WhatCulture Combat. I am Gareth, of course, as always, and we've got a few little news stories to drop today. We've got the first one. The first one's a pretty big one, to be honest. It's all about Manny Pacquiao, and he is signed with Conor McGregor's management firm. So yeah, you can just go straight into booking kind of fantasy overdrive now, because it's pretty much kind of signed, sealed, delivered. We're going to get Manny Pacquiao versus Conor McGregor. Take that to the bank. Gareth told you, run away, go and tell everyone. Okay, I am probably getting a bit ahead of myself, but we've got an official kind of release here from Paradigm Sports Management, obviously Conor's kind of management firm, who have come out on Twitter and said, we're very excited to announce that Manny Pacquiao has signed with PSM for full service representation. Manny is one of the greatest boxers of all time, and we look forward to working with Arnold, Ping, and the rest of the team back in Manila to maximize his historic career. Apologies if I've just completely mispronounced Manila or Manila. My bad. But yeah, so that's straight away. It seems like things have changed, but they've not quite fully changed. A lot of Manny's kind of original kind of backroom staff and team still staying on board, but they're kind of just underneath this banner now, this management firm banner, which Conor is obviously already a part of. Many people have been speculating for the last couple of months, really, that Pacquiao and Conor was about to be a thing, because obviously Conor took on Mayweather. That did incredible kind of astronomical numbers it had no right to do, really, for a guy that never had a boxing match in his entire life, not a professional one anyway. So yeah, it kind of made sense. Pacquiao is probably the next guy down on the rung in terms of Mayweather, so it's a realistic fight. I think he does have a title right now, so I think, yeah, it made all the sense in the world, but it was still a bit of a pipe dream of maybe it could happen, whereas now seems that little bit more realistic. Pacquiao did come out and actually say, he said this in the press release, the official press release, I am proud to partner with Paradigm Sports Management, and I'm excited for the opportunities that Audiatar and PSM have to offer. One thing I want everyone to remember is to always think positively. Never think negatively. That is the beginning of your downfall. Everything is possible. So he's highly optimistic coming into this new deal, and I am too. I think we're going to get McGregor versus Pacquiao. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see Mayweather-McGregor Part 2 as well. I know he said Mayweather-Pacquiao Part 2. I'd love to see that as well. These are so many dream matches that could, well, they are seeming to edge a little bit closer now, and I like that. We like our dream fights. We like our super fights. It's kind of become the era of the super fight, hasn't it, really? In boxing, MMA, everything, it's become that era of trying to get the mega fights out there, which for a long time, you kind of had these top stars who were being quite tactical with their fights and kind of tiptoeing around the other big guys and like top contenders in their divisions. Whereas now we're getting to a stage where people are just like, just take my money. I want to see these two fight. They're the best two right now. Take my money, put on the fight. That's what it's all about. Next up, we're going to talk about the UFC 247 medical suspensions. Obviously, this is something comes out after every single big event. People have to have medical suspensions because they need time to heal. They're not machines, they're not superhuman. They get beaten up in these fights, and there are a couple of wars on that card, on that UFC 247 card. But one person who you probably didn't expect to have a significant layoff after her fight was probably the UFC flyweight champion, Valentina Shevchenko. She completely dismantled and destroyed Caitlin Chikagian in her fight at UFC 247, and it kind of seemed like if one of those two was going to need a bit more time off, it'd probably be the loser, Chikagian. But in reality, it's Shevchenko who's been given the longer 6 month long term off. So it's a bit of a shock, really. We don't know what injury, it's not really been released, what kind of medical issues or injuries have forced this 6 month layoff. But yeah, it's kind of been released by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulations. Like I said, they haven't disclosed details about any medical suspensions in particular, as in like why they are actually as long as what they are. But there is always the chance that Shevchenko could appeal and get a doctor's kind of note to make her come back sooner. That is possible as well. So I'm just going to have a bit of a reel off now, a bit of a talk through some of the other suspensions, just to kind of go into a bit more detail as to why they've probably got as much time off as they have. You've got Jon Jones, who's been suspended until March 10th. So that's not too long at all. We've got Dominic Reyes, who again's been suspended until March 10th. So they both pretty much went to war. Dominic Reyes apparently had to be kind of escorted out of the building. He couldn't walk. And if you saw Jon Jones as well, he was absolutely battered up. But the two of those are going to be back at a similar time. So again, that's not long at all, really. It's like less than a month, so they're going to be back pretty soon. Like we said, Valentina Shevchenko has been suspended until August 7th, 6 months down the line. Chookagian, has been until March 25th, so that's like a month and a bit, so that's not too bad. This is an interesting one. So Justin Tafa, who beat Juan Adams in their heavyweight clash, he knocked him out. He's actually going to be medically suspended for longer than Juan Adams, a month longer. He's April 9th and Juan Adams is March 10th. So that's a super interesting one because Juan Adams got knocked out. So you'd think automatically, just kind of logic, you'd think he's probably the one who needs more time off than what Juan Adams did. Maybe he seriously hurt his hand when he did knock him out because he got him a few times. Also, you've got Danny Ige was suspended until March 10th and Miroslav Bektic, again, has been suspended until March 10th. And then finally, Derek Lewis has been suspended until February 18th. So that's literally, he's pretty much already back out. He's like a week off. But then he said, we reported yesterday that he said he's dealing with a life or death issue right now. So that's a bit of a perplexing one. If you said the UFC knew of this already, obviously this is through the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. But a lot of weird things going on right now with Derek Lewis. We just hope he's okay. We just hope he's fine and okay and he can be back fighting as soon as possible. Right, and the last piece of news we're going to go into is all about UFC champion. We've just mentioned him a few times in this video already. Jon Jones, the light heavyweight champion himself, Johnny Bones Jones. He said that transitioning into WWE is inevitable. And if you know anything about WhatCulture in general, we're pretty big on wrestling as well. We like our WhatCulture Wrestling. Head over to that channel. Check out all the awesome videos there. But this is super interesting because we've seen in the past, we've seen the likes of Ronda Rousey transition from UFC into wrestling. We've seen Brock Lesnar start at wrestling, go and kick ass in UFC and come back to wrestling. They do offer each other up because of the character element, because of the kind of selling, everything else. Obviously, the physical element, the combat shoot style works really well in wrestling. So yeah, he's come out and he told Sports Illustrated, "I think it's inevitable. I've always respected WWE, and I feel the sports can be so similar. I have the size and athleticism and the following to transition over really well. To get the opportunity to just show up, even as a special guest, would be a dream come true." Could he turn up at WrestleMania? I mean, I'm really jumping the gun there. But yeah, Jon Jones definitely lends himself to that. And just imagine the match, Jon Jones versus Brock Lesnar. We could finally get that match. Yeah, it's not an octagon where we wanted it, but it could happen. I think he's got that kind of suave, kind of charismatic cockiness that transitions really well into the wrestling kind of world. If he came in, he'd probably have to be a heel just because he's that good. It's the Kurt Angle thing. If he's so legit, you couldn't imagine kind of just cheering him instantly because you think, oh, that guy's so good. I hate that guy. He's too good. But yeah, I think that's wise for Jones going forward, and he can earn a lot of money in the wrestling arena. I think he'd be a massive draw. It's great again for that relationship between UFC and WWE. Obviously trying to like build that relationship as much as possible, and with the Fox relationship as well. Like it's just one of those things where you just want to try and build as many bridges as possible and try and get as many people transitioning over as possible. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of MMA, big fan of wrestling as well. It'd be really good to get those mashing up. And I think Jon Jones' finisher could be that spinning elbow. I think Chris Jericho would have a bit of an issue with that because he does something similar over in AEW, but that spinning back elbow would just be, it just lends itself perfectly to the world of wrestling. So hopefully going forward in the future, we might see Jon Jones pop up in the world of wrestling. And yeah, he could become a world champion, could become a WWE world champion, as well as a UFC world champion, and really rival Brock Lesnar for that title. Pretty cool. And that is our news roundup for the day. What do you think about Manny Pacquiao signing on with Conor McGregor's management firm? What do you think of Valentina Shevchenko getting a bit of a decent layoff after winning her title fight at UFC 247? And also, what do you think of the potential for Jon Jones to transition over into the world of pro wrestling? I have been Gareth here from WhatCulture Combat. Do not forget to like, share, and click the subscribe button to all things WhatCulture Combat. Check us out on Twitter at WhatCulture Combat, and check out myself on Twitter at gmorgan04. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm sure I'll see you soon.